You know, I'm glad I actually haven't shaved because I look quite a bit like Brent Spiner and Bill Pullman actually do in this film. I'm also pretty exhausted and agitated, which puts me in the perfect state of mind to be reviewing this film. Back in 2016, I actually had a particularly awful day on one occasion. I had to get up at 5 AM to go to a trial shift at a cafe where the waitress was extremely rude to me. I wasn't actually told to make any coffees even though I was being trained as a barista, and after I left, I never got a call back with further information or even compensation for my shift, which I'm pretty sure is illegal. That was the second worst part of my day, because after that, I went to see Independence Day Resurgence.
Ho 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 ho, delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to Delightfully Devilish, the show where we discuss films that all at once meet the criteria of being the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jukebox Harry, and now that I've talked about the best film of 2016, I'm going to talk about the absolute worst. Independence Day Resurgence is a science fiction disaster piece of shit sequel to the 1996 monumental blockbuster Independence Day, which actually became the second highest grossing film of all time when it first came out, and propelled Will Smith to mainstream stardom. But did anyone ever actually think this film needed a sequel?
No.
No. No. No. No. No.
No.
No.
No. No.
Yes. I mean, no. No.
The original Independence Day is a product of its time. It had a lot of powerful 90s stars and some groundbreaking visual effects, but in retrospect, it's a highly average film. The action is still exciting, and the special effects have aged fairly well, but the film is 2.5 hours of hammy dialogue and shameless jingoism with a few moments of spectacle. The film completed its story and closed the books on everyone's arcs. There was no more story to tell. We never needed a sequel to Armageddon, we never needed a sequel to Twister, we tried by having a sequel to Speed, and look exactly what that proved. The same thing that Independence Day Resurgence proved, that just because a film makes money, that you don't need to come back and do it a second time. Director Roland Emmerich also created Universal Soldier and Stargate. These are two films that warranted sequels because there was more stories to tell, there was more narrative ground to explore. If you tried to think of an idea for a sequel to Independence Day, what would you think? It'd probably just be, aliens attack again? And that's exactly what we get. Independence Day Resurgence is a pretty huge failure, and honestly that does actually make me happy. The first film did blockbuster numbers at box office. The second film apparently hasn't even broken even. The first movie had mildly popular reception with critics and audiences, whereas the sequel, yeah, just check out the Rotten Tomatoes score, that says everything. And when I think about it, I don't even know why I'm actually reviewing this film. I hated this movie so much that I had a friend who was a diehard fan of the first Independence Day film, and I actually tried to convince him not to go see it by lying to him and saying that Linkin Park did the soundtrack. I love Linkin Park, he didn't. I just really did not want him to waste his time on that movie. But he also stole $800 from me, so I hope he's watching this film somewhere in the world, you stupid piece of shit. While trying to research this film to review it, it took me days to actually watch it. I enjoyed it so little that I very much contemplated stopping halfway through and just scrapping this review as a whole, but I was honestly in too deep. So instead, this is what I'm going to call a bullet episode. Like Christopher Columbus, The Discovery, and Deep Impact, this is one of those films that I'm watching and reviewing so that you never have to. You're welcome. The film opens with former President Thomas J. Whitmore, who wakes up from a nightmare about his alien encounters. And you can tell he's gotten old because they gave him a beard. Then we're treated to some heavy exposition.
For 20 years, the world has seen no armed conflict. Nations have put their petty differences aside. United, we rebuilt our families, our cities, and our lives. The fusion of human and alien technology not only enabled us to defy gravity and travel with unimaginable speed, it also made our planet finally safe again.
Classic tee-ups.
And Will Smith is in the film, but not really. Will Smith actually turned down appearing in this film so that he could appear in Suicide Squad. God, that film actually was the lesser of two piece of shit movies that came out in the summer of 2016. Still, they found a way to force him into the movie. And we get to meet Will Smith's character's stepson, Dylan Hiller.
Welcome to the White House.
It's great to be back.
It is definitely not.
Your father was a great man. He'd be so proud.
Yeah, get ready for a lot of references to Will Smith's character. He probably gets more than his son actually gets in this film. Then we pan in on the Earth Defense Station based on the moon, giving us a look at the predictably impressive visual effects and the film's star Liam Hemsworth.
7 miles and closing.
Cheer up. There's worse things you could be doing than towing a $500 billion weapon.
Yeah, well, I need a little more stimulation.
It honestly took me a while to figure out whether Liam Hemsworth was playing an Australian or an American character in this film because the writing says one thing but his inconsistency with accent says another. While the spacecraft is attempting to dock with the base, it falls off balance, meaning that Jake Morrison has to take one of the miniature spacecrafts and push it back into place so that it doesn't fall and crush everyone. The entire scene could not be more predictable, but it's necessary for us as an audience to learn that our protagonist is a man who doesn't always play by the rules, which will predictably be his redeeming quality in the end of the story.
You almost got us all killed. Yeah, but then I saved everyone. You're grounded.
Haha, get it? Because they're on the moon?
Can I still watch TV, or
You know, Liam Hemsworth is a decent actor, but comedic timing, not even once. And William Fichtner is in the sequel. This guy is in everything, so I actually had to double check and see if he was in the first Independence Day. He wasn't. He was in Armageddon, which in a sense is kind of the same thing.
Look how their behavior changed. After 20 years of being catatonic.
Oh, how convenient.
And Jeff Goldblum is back.
I've actually found it's a very constructive experience.
Lloyd! You guys! Enough!
Who are those men?
Ubuntu's rebel forces.
Jewish scientist guy runs into strong woman character.
Let's be professional.
Well, we both remember what happened the last time we tried to be professional.
Do you mean him saving the world, or did something happen between you two? I mean, I don't care, but the story should at least have the decency to tell me. These two have a tedious, childish banter, which isn't amusing, but this actually constitutes about 90% of the dialogue in the film. It's always banter between friends or romantic drama, but it's the same tedious interactions copied and pasted between every character.
How did they get the lights on?
We didn't. It happened on its own 2 days ago.
I appreciate you finally granting us this access, Mr. Ubuntu. Your father was very tenacious.
How many characters' fathers is this story gonna be indebted to? Seriously, can't we get characters that stand on their own feet without constantly referring to their bloody sperm donors? This guy's character's father wasn't even in the first film. Basically, during the first film, an alien saucer landed here and drilled into the ground. Then they sent a distress signal back to the alien homeworld. And nothing has happened with it for 20 years. Know why? Because there's no story there.
Captain Hiller, considering he died during a test flight, how do you feel taking off for the moon from a hangar named after your father?
You know what? He probably feels a little bit pissed off that every single time he's about to make an achievement, you keep on bringing it back to his father. We fucking get it. Take a shot every time Will Smith's character gets referenced in some shape or form, and you might be drunk enough to enjoy this movie. And Cool Cat Saves the Kids actress Vivica A. Fox gets her one foray into mainstream filmmaking since 2004 in this film. Remember the stripper she played in Independence Day? Yeah, she's a doctor now. In Independence Day, she spoke proudly about how she was a stripper and how there was no shame in that job, and honestly, that's a pretty good moral message. But in 2016, you can't have a PG film with a character that's a stripper anymore, so let's just make her a doctor. We get a pretty decent shot of all these pilots landing on the moon base, and then all the Asians on the moon flock to actress Angela Baby for her autograph, because we needed Chinese audiences to believe that this film was catered towards them.
They do move in herds.
Ironically, despite all the film's desperate attempts to pander to Chinese audiences, the film actually did not find an audience over there, largely because Angela Baby got very little screen time apparently.
Ah, that's a shame.
She also just so happens to be related to the one other Central Asian character in the film. Did the writers just think that making every character in this movie related is a solid substitute for actual character development? Because it's not.
The pilot that China sent is my future wife, and I mean it.
She's your future wife.
She's my future wife.
Dylan Hiller enters the room and punches Morrison in the face, for some reason.
What's going on here?
I asked you.
A question!
Yeah, great idea. Ask the guy who got punched in the face why he got punched in the face, instead of asking someone who punched him why they did that.
It was never gonna be you leading that squadron. That's not the way the world works. You know, he's royalty.
So the only reason Dylan Hiller actually got anywhere in the world is because of his father's royalty. Not because he's a strong character who can stand on his own 2 feet. Not because he's actually a good fighter pilot. Yeah, just what wonderful character development. Also, this scene has 2 white boys complaining about how they're underprivileged while an African American is succeeding in an accomplished field of work.
Ironic.
You know, the last thing I said to my parents was I hated them. The only reason I'm still alive is because they dropped me off at that stupid camp.
Well, I'm glad they did, because you're the only family I got.
There is a very clear difference between actually developing a family bond and simply dropping words that are synonymous with family, but this movie just can't figure it out. Turns out the conflict between Morrison and Hiller is because Morrison almost killed Hiller during a test flight. And remember the crazy scientist from Independence Day? Well, guess what happened to him?
Can you believe it? You've been in a coma for 7,300 days.
I can't, but you can, so that's fine.
Also, just because you call it 7,300 days, that doesn't make it any more thematically powerful than simply saying it's been 20 years. God fucking damn it. Brent Spiner may have a legacy for appearing in Independence Day and Star Trek The Next Generation, but in this film he reminds me more than anything of his appearance in The Master of Disguise, which, get this, was a better movie. A strange formation appears above the moon and a robotic sphere comes out of it.
The design and the technology of this ship is nothing like the ones that attacked us. I'm telling you, this is not them.
And what if you're wrong?
Wow, Mrs. President, the guy who literally saved the entire planet 20 years ago doesn't meet your standards of education?
Take him out, Commander. Let's hope to God we did the right thing.
pardon me, but in a world where you've known about the existence of aliens for 20 years, can you actually say something like hope to God? Because my understanding is that religion does not actually allow for the belief of intelligent life outside of planet Earth.
Madam President, we need to send a team up to investigate the wreckage. I need to get up there and get answers.
David, you can lead a team up there, but after the celebration.
God damn it, Mrs. President, you are quite the asshole.
At approximately 2100 hours, Earth's Space Defense Program repelled an alien attack targeting our planet.
This scene captures my feelings pretty well. Here we have Bill Pullman, who gave an iconic performance as a very strong president in Independence Day, turning off the TV on probably the most unlikable character in this film, who also so happens to be the president.
I will avenge you, brother.
If you're gonna keep hitting audiences over the head with reminders that characters have families, then at least make us care about them.
Hey, wait, I need a receipt!
In the very next shot, we learn that in the universe of the film with engineered walking spacecraft, yet we haven't figured out an alternative to paper receipts. At my day job as a clerk, we have digital receipts as an option, for fuck's sakes.
And that's when I came up with the idea that saved the world.
Judd Hirsch?
Hey.
What's going on?
Nothing.
All right.
Among the few actors they actually got back for this sequel is Judd Hirsch. Remember him? Exactly. Our ragtag group of heroes assemble into one spacecraft and travel to the moon with the intention of studying the thing that the president shut down.
Nice tattoos. That's how many aliens you killed, right? So, how'd you do it?
You have to get them from behind.
That's what he said, right, guys? Because of gay?
On this day, in 1996, President Whitmore passionately declared, "We will not go quietly into the night."
Yes, passion. Something you are sorely lacking. It's okay though, because Bill Pullman steps up to deliver what will no doubt be a stirring and memorable address.
Today, not going to be. I came to warn you.
Nope, instead we get a bunch of people having some kind of weird psychological meltdown because they keep having visions of a spherical object. Yeah, now we're plagiarizing plot points from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and we're not doing it well. Their minds are linked to the aliens, who are suddenly arriving.
Ship's more than 3,000 miles in diameter. How the hell did we miss this?
A good question. For another time.
The gang collects a sphere from the wreckage as they flee, and the moon base tries attacking the giant UFO, but who would have guessed it, they have a shield.
Wow! What do you know?
The UFO strikes back and destroys the moon base, and this is the first major attack we get. In Independence Day, we saw an iconic moment where the White House was destroyed and the disaster spread for miles, with the film actually showing us the individuals who were affected by it to try to put some humanity into the situation. In Resurgence, we get one shot of people running and Uncle Pandering, but the rest is just a generic CGI explosion which is over in a matter of seconds. The film doesn't even pretend like the lives of its characters actually mean anything to the story, and by the standards of modern special effects, this is nothing groundbreaking. Mrs. President orders the satellites orbiting the Earth to protect the planet, but the aliens destroy them in a matter of seconds. Then they send Earth into a state of anti-gravity which makes everyone and everything lift up to the sky. So Earth is in danger, and I couldn't care less. I have no reason to care about any of these characters, none of them have substance, and the only ones I'm likely to care about at all is probably the select few that I got attached to from the first Independence Day, and even then, I just don't. But it's okay, because look, CGI falling debris. And for some reason amid all this, we have a bunch of pirates trying to plunder gold from a sunken ship. Because, you know, it's just so essential in the middle of an alien attack that we have a bunch of sea dogs out drinking on a boat. Killer and his squad start leading the attack.
I'll meet you there. I gotta see about someone.
Good luck.
Thanks, this film is definitely gonna need it.
Okay?
My mother lives in London.
We don't care about you, we are not going to care about your mother. And speaking of family, Grandpa Hirsch is being chased by an explosion on his boat.
Oh, sweet Moses!
Now, honestly, I don't have actually any concern whether Judd Hirsch's character actually survives this film or not, but there is a moment for potential here. We could actually have Judd Hirsch on the phone with his son as he's seconds away from being crushed, saying a very tearful goodbye. This could be a tour de force of character drama.
But that's not the way it happened.
But the film does lazily try to do this a few seconds later by pulling Vivica A. Fox onto the roof of a hospital.
I got bodies on that hospital roof that need immediate evac.
She manages to get a patient and her baby onto the helicopter but falls to her death. Damn, so I guess all that character development they did by making her into a doctor was all for nothing. And the full extent of her death in the story is Jesse Usher just saying no repeatedly. The wave of debris miraculously stops at the White House. Former President Bill Pullman voluntarily goes in to communicate with the alien, seemingly forgetting that the last time someone did that, he ended up in a coma for 7,300 days.
What does this mean? What does this symbol mean? Why are you afraid of it?
It's Gilligan! I did not see that coming!
The alien breaks out of the glass and a shootout begins, but while all the advanced laser weaponry in the world doesn't have an impact, a warlord with 2 blades makes all the difference. Then the film goes all deep impact on us by showing us a bunch of kids, because even if the film doesn't actually give us any character development, if those characters are kids, we're automatically going to care more about them, right?
Wrong.
Yeah, this entire subplot about Judd Hirsch meeting up with a bunch of kids actually adds nothing in the slightest to the story, so I'm just going to disregard it. The aliens start using a laser drill in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
David, is this one of their plasma drills you briefed us about?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, now you care about his opinion? See, there it goes again. This film actually spends more time reflecting on photos of Will Smith and the character that he played in the first film than Vivica A. Fox, who actually returned for the sequel.
Look, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from right now. But I've been where you are.
White people need to stop saying this to people of color. We do not know what it's like to be in their shoes.
We're gonna send a fleet of drones to go in ahead of you and disable their shields. Your mission is to fly cover for the bombers who will be armed with cold fusion warheads. Now the blast should penetrate the hull and kill that alien queen.
I doubt it!
I'm coming back. I promise.
Hitler promised not to invade Czechoslovakia, Jeremy. Welcome to the real world.
It's the 4th of July. So let's show them some fireworks. It's not gangster.
Why would you constantly remind us of how great a character Will Smith was when his son is so bereft of any charisma or comic timing that the constant reminders just make him seem that much worse? The attack quickly turns disastrous as everyone gets wiped out like the students of Columbine High School. The battle has some visual flair to it, which I'll give it credit for, but again, it's nothing groundbreaking, and the entire scene just feels very by the numbers. Eventually, our 4 forgettable young heroes decide to fly into the hangar, hoping to land an attack from the inside.
They didn't follow us.
An EMP goes off in the hangar, which disables the planes, and then the ship destroys literally every satellite in Earth's orbit. And the aliens breach the president's bunker.
There will be no peace.
There will be no charisma from Sailor Ward.
All members of the presidential line of succession are presumed dead.
Okay, so the president is so irrelevant to the film that we didn't actually even get to see her die on screen. Wow, remember how essential the president was to the first film? Yeah, I don't know if they cast Sailor Ward and then halfway through filming they were like, damn, she's just so unlikable that they actually tried to write her out of the film. But yeah.
Flush that turd down the drain!
Still, I would actually like to see her die, not because I want her to have more screen time, but because if I actually see her die, then I know there's no chance of her coming back. William Fichtner gets sworn in as president, which should have been done in the first place. Everyone has given up hope, just as the audiences probably have at this point, and now President Pullman decides to try and turn things around.
In the last 20 years, this planet has been unified in a way that's unprecedented in human history.
Hey, look at me. I'm walking. Oh, I'm a remarkable man.
We all have to fight till our last breath. And that is going to lead us to victory.
That could have gone better.
And 72 minutes into the film, we finally see what all those visions were about when this robotic sphere pops out. The discovery of this alerts the alien queen, who fits herself with a protective alien armor. It turns out that the sphere comes from an extinct alien species who previously lost an intergalactic war with the aliens who drained their planet of its natural resources.
My system holds the key to superior technology, and there is a hidden planet where I teach refugees from other fallen worlds how to build weapons that will defeat them once and for all.
That's why they're afraid of you. You're the only ones who threaten their existence.
Just because you pause between your sentences, it doesn't mean your words are any more powerful, Charlotte.
Correct.
We can bait her like she baited us.
And we only have 1 hour to do so.
If we hide the real sphere inside the isolation chamber and pack this decoy transmitter, so to speak, onto a tug filled with cold fusion bombs and lure her out to the salt flats,
We can fly it right up her royal ass and bon voyage.
As you know, they took out all of our satellites, which means that somebody is going to have to fly it in manually. I'll do it. Mr. President.
The man who has no practice in flying a jet in the past 20 years and is in such a mentally weak state that he actually fainted while giving a speech. Can no one see the problem with actually trying to make him the person to fly this mission? Yeah, this is a very clear example of the film using cheesy jingoism over the most basic logic.
There are a lot of reasons why I'm the best choice for this.
Such as?
This thing is way cooler than a machete! Sorry! Sorry, everyone, that was my bad!
Fucking white people.
Isn't the comic relief supposed to be funny? The pilot surviving in the ship decides to steal alien fighters while Jake Morrison pees on them. But what he's really peeing on is what little integrity this film has left.
Jake's in trouble!
Really?
Everyone gets safely to their jets and rushes to escape the mothership.
Jake, did you make it? Rain?
Did you see him come out of there?
I'm not sure.
Wait for it.
Did you miss me?
Oh yeah, we're 3/4 of the way into the film at this point. There has been nothing compelling happen and no effective setup for any kind of payoff. The stakes have never been lower.
What we do in the next 12 minutes will either define the human race or finish it.
I wish it was 12 minutes. There's actually 30 more minutes of this to go.
Where is he?
He asked me as a friend, as a father.
Okay. Yesterday, I actually got the news that my father had to be airlifted to hospital because he nearly drowned in the surf. He was 10 seconds from dying. The phone call I had with my dad was emotionally devastating. Honestly, I am in a very emotionally vulnerable state where I should be feeling this father-son drama, but I'm not. Now, what does that say about how bad this film was? The final attack begins and it's predictably routine. The aliens lead the attack, the humans experience casualties while occasionally making a dent in the enemy's forces, and Bill Pullman flies into the anus of a ship as it gets trapped in a shield barrier.
Happy 4th of July.
There's nothing happy about it, your sacrifice feels like nothing, and I am not sad to see you die, even though I know I should be. For the film's final scene, the genre changes into a monster movie as the alien queen gives chase to two of the few surviving characters from the first movie. The queen also has an impenetrable shield.
We are within 6 minutes, sir.
6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, doggy dog, your own.
General, her shield is down!
Wait, what? How? Our friends in the alien ships fly back in to help the situation, but in comes a swarm of aliens themselves to create a protective barrier. Unfortunately, they fail to cover the top of the aliens, so the humans just swarm in from the top.
You ready for a close encounter, bitch?
That is the closest that Jesse Usher actually gets to having any charisma or comic timing in the film, but it still feels desperate. The humans are easily able to blast the absolute shit out of it, thus killing it and causing the drilling to stop and the aliens to all crash.
It wants us to lead their resistance. We are gonna kick some serious alien ass.
So that was a fucking lie.
The end. No way I am asking if this is a good film. While I was putting together my notes for the review on this movie, I actually had Superman 3 playing in the background. You know, that movie that completely derailed the Superman series back in the 1980s. That film was streets ahead of this movie in terms of quality. I actually enjoyed it a lot more. Doing a sequel to a 20-year-old film which was culturally very defined by the decade in which it actually came out is a very difficult task. Now, Bad Boys, that's a series that managed to actually do it successfully twice. Even though Bad Boys 2 might not have been great, it adapted a lot of great elements from contemporary action films, and Bad Boys for Life, that film managed to do that and so much more. This film, it just can't do that. Outside of its special effects, the original Independence Day is a very stock standard film. Nonetheless, with its patriotism and shameless jingoism at its helm, it really managed to elicit some kind of excitement. 20 years later, you would think that Roland Emmerich has somehow lost sight of the formula that actually made that film work. He has proven himself to make some pretty entertaining disaster films like 2012 and The Day After Tomorrow. Neither are particularly great, but they're entertaining as guilty pleasures. But this film actually reminds us more than anything of another disaster monster film he made, Godzilla. Remember that film that had no respect for its characters, was full of cheesy dialogue and a lot of pretentious melodrama that tried to counteract that? Yeah, that's what Independence Day Resurgence feels like more than any other film in Roland Emmerich's career. This film actually lays it on thicker. Every single character is a cardboard cutout, and there is just so goddamn many of them. And if they're not providing obligatory exposition, they're making small talk. So much annoying, tedious small talk, which is never the slightest bit funny. It is one thing to make a bad disaster film. It is another thing to prove that you can make a good disaster film, then pump out a terribly lifeless sequel 20 years later when you've had all that time to work on the new material. If this was just another disaster film, then I wouldn't be judging it as badly as it was. But the first Independence Day was a very iconic disaster film, and this film had the same director and the same writers. Unfortunately, they also brought in another 3 writers who had to make sure that the story was full of stock characters and pandering, and that's exactly where it got overwhelmed. If you have 5 writers, then at least one of them should have realized that this movie never should have been written in the first place. Just because Hollywood has no ideas anymore and keeps on demanding reboots, sequels, remakes, spin-offs, that kind of thing, it doesn't mean we need to keep making them. Especially when the first Independence Day had so few ideas outside of its special effects in the first place. I have no idea what the writers were thinking, especially considering that this film is meant to be the first in a new series of Independence Day films, but the box office results have made sure that that is definitely not going to happen. The only thing the filmmakers definitely got right was the decision to make it 2 hours instead of 2.5 hours like the first Independence Day. It may be 2 of the longest hours of your life, But at least that's not 2.5. The story also tries to force an excess of intergalactic mythology into a simple alien attack narrative. But if you look past this, you'll see that there's a constant feeling of hopelessness across the entire film. Humans keep losing and falling victims to traps until at the very last moment, Jeff Goldblum has an idea that will completely save everything. It's 2 hours of unlikable characters constantly losing until the film invents a new way out, and the first Independence Day balanced loss with a few small victories until the exciting finale, while this one pummels you into the ground with its feeling of hopelessness and genuine unlikability. Sure, it has some pretty special effects along the way, but you can't use CGI in the place of actual storytelling. The first Independence Day may have prioritized special effects over narrative, but it does not use them in place of a narrative like this movie does. Also, it used visual effects as well as miniatures. This film is just all computer generated. But honestly, the biggest problem with the film is just the fucking characters. Sailor Ward is the standout for me because she's just awful. Apparently I've seen her in The Fugitive and The Day After Tomorrow and Gone Girl, but I have no recollection of having ever seen her in any of these films. And honestly, it's a pretty obvious rule that if you're making a Hollywood disaster film where the president is an essential character, you make it a recognizable movie star. Independence Day Resurgence tries to pretend like it's made a bold and progressive move by having a female president, but she is so thoroughly unlikable with her poor decisions and hammy line delivery that we sincerely want her dead. And even though the film delivers on this, the fact that it does is still just awful. I should not hate the president like I do, and I should be able to believe that people voted for her, but I simply don't. And I'm not only saying that because there's still such a conservative presence in America that people are threatened by the idea of a woman in power. No, it's simply that she's just awful. And why they cast Sailor Ward, I'll never understand. She only came here to chew scenery, so when I found out that she was the one cast member to actually get a Golden Raspberry Award nomination for acting, I was very happy. That is very valid recognition for a terrible performance. Jeff Goldblum is fine, but he has no romantic chemistry with Charlotte Gainsborough, nor does his father-son arc with Judd Hirsch actually have any heart to it. As a matter of fact, Judd Hirsch had such a minor role in the first Independence Day that the fact he was elevated to such a major role in this film cries of desperation, especially when his entire arc is chaperoning a bunch of meaningless little kids who are never reconnected with their family. I am perfectly happy with Judd Hirsch getting this role because it gives the Academy Award nominated actor another chance to act in a major role in a Hollywood mainstream film, but it was just a wasted opportunity and he deserved better. The four youngsters who are meant to be the film's action heroes could not feel any more generic. Although I'll give him credit for trying, Liam Hemsworth is generic, and the only other memorable one is Jesse Usher, simply because his entire characterization is the fact that he is the stepson of Will Smith's character. And the film spends more time reminding us of this than it actually does, giving him the strength to stand on his own 2 feet. In 2016, we saw the sports drama Creed, the 10-year sequel to Rocky Balboa, which also served as a reboot for the franchise, focusing on the character Adonis Creed, the son of Apollo Creed. The film is about him trying to establish himself as a boxer, but do it outside of his father's shadow, and he is constantly threatened by those comparisons. This is what Jesse Usher's character's arc should have been in this film. He should have been constantly trying to establish himself as a character and sick of all the comparisons. But no, the comparisons are literally his entire character development, and that's just pathetic. This film seemingly tries to borrow ideas from the Fast and Furious franchise by just dropping words like family and father and brother all over the place, but it doesn't mean shit. Independence Day Resurgence gets 1 giant alien laser out of 10. It does have some decent special effects, but it relies on them way too often to disguise a frustrating lack of ideas, an abundance of paper-thin characters, and a genuine, real lack of fun. And that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish, you guys. If there are any movies you want to see me discuss on this show, please leave them in the comment section below. If you want to see more episodes of this series, please hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, until next time, I have been your host, Jukebox Harry. We will not go quietly into the night.